Blksmiith Digital Twin. Blksmiith, real name Ian, coming from New York, is a breakcore atmospheric drum and bass slash jungle new-ish creator coming out with their first debut album, Desync, in 2021. Blksmiith having 384,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, becoming one of the most well-known modern breakcore artists. The most popular song, SR20DET, which is the name of a car engine, by the way, is really what put them into popularity and let their album that was attached to that Digital Twin become known. The album Digital Twin released in 2022 with 13 songs long, becoming very popular on TikTok and Instagram and various places on social media. Really pioneered the way for Blksmiith to become just a known artist. Now, originally when I do review artists, I tend to go with their most recent album, but since I really have only listened to songs from Digital Twin, I felt it was only justified that I at first review Digital Twin, right? And there's been a little bit of discussion online if Blksmiith is considered a breakcore or atmospheric drum and bass or jungle artist, but it's pretty much considered that he is breakcore mainly, with atmospheric drum and bass and jungle also kind of like subgenres of what he makes. However, I feel like in this album specifically, it is a breakcore album, but you definitely do need atmospheric drum and bass to be one of the genres that you use to describe this album, because there are some songs in here that they use a breakbeat, right, but they're not breakcore. And you really can divide the album into two parts. There's this, the first half is more a lot more upbeat, energetic. This is what I consider more a lot more the breakcore and jungle to be part of. And in the last half, following SR20DET and Fragment, you get into a lot more sentimental and mellow, and a lot more atmospheric in drum and bass. And it's just, just a very noticeable, very big mood change that's happening. But diving into the album here, you start out with Satellite from Days of Old, Lead Me to Your Access Codes. And this is kind of a strange introduction. There's nothing really quite like it in the rest of the album following this. However, it does, set a really good tone, and the saxophone part going over the song really, it just makes this super nice jazz fusion. Two songs that I feel like are kind of similar are Infowars and 60 FPS. These are some of the more fun, dancey, upbeat songs of the album. Infowars has this really well-chopped, smooth breakbeat, punctuated with some fat 808 bass. And 60 FPS has this more muffled breakbeat with exchange for a nice bass line and a lot more vocal chops. Void is probably my least favorite on this album. Despite that, I feel like the first half of the song is really good, but just the heavy and distorted bass and the rest of it just doesn't really fit well with the rest of the song, or really with the rest of the album at all. It's still kind of a nice transitioning point though. SR20DET, the song you guys all have been waiting for. I first heard this song, it was one of the first breakcore songs I think I ever heard. It was on some mashup video on YouTube with a bunch of other songs in it. The song itself kind of starts out with this traditional standard breakcore chop break beat, and within a few seconds it's just followed by this blasting synth, right? And I feel like that's that short sweet moment at the beginning is really what's caused the song to go viral across so many different platforms across years. It's just the same beat and the same synths for pretty much the whole song, the whole 4 minutes. But it's, despite that kind of long time with somewhat, similar instruments, it's not able to get too repetitive. And after the song is when I would consider the halfway point within the album. The first half was kind of a lot more upbeat songs, and you notice in the last half it's kind of a lot more mellow and kind of a lot more leaning into that atmospheric drum bass rather than breakbeat and breakcore. And that second half is also considered to be more just more mellow, more sentimental, a lot of sentimental stuff here. Deeper feelings, and a lot of the songs here will have a lot slower melody, but drums are still keeping up a fast pace. GORE-TEX Covers My Soul is this much more melodic and sentimental, slow and long acoustic guitar riffs and these echoey vocal synths throughout the beat that are going over the breakbeat. As the song is just really speaking out to you. As if it's longing for something. That's kind of the vibe I was getting on this one. And it's, like I said, definitely this big jump in contrast to the pounding and hard-hitting songs from the first half. Out of Control it has some ambient vaporwave elements in it, and it really transitions great into the next song, Ghost Twin, which continues the same feeling of the past two songs. Illegal Activities, well, it's a fine song. It is just probably one of the worst songs placement-wise on this album. Definitely not my worst song overall, right? Like I already said, there's probably Void, and there's a couple others that I think would be bottom. But Illegal Activities is just badly placed on this album. It just belongs in the first half. It has just like the same bouncy and hard 808s that like Infowars and 60 FPS has, and the other songs from the first half have. And like I said, the songs, it's fine, it's well produced, right? But it just ruins the experience and kind of the moment that you had with the past 3 songs. And it would be fine, right, if it wasn't for the last song, and When the Tides Change, Nothing Will Be Left, being this beautiful conclusion to this album. It's this epic song. It gives this feeling of just, raw hope, of empowerment, of meaning, and it in my opinion, it amazingly concludes the album with this beautiful track, and it is definitely my favorite song on the album. And for me, at least, I mean, it's probably, like this last song right here, and When the Tides Change, Nothing Will Be Left, might be one of, like, probably within, like, my top, no, I'm not saying that, I'm not gonna say like top 3 or top 5, right? But definitely within my top favorite breakcore songs of all time. It is just that beautiful. And I feel like it would just made the album time so much better if Illegal Activities was somewhere else, so that you could have just gone from, sadder, mellower songs into this song of just like having, like, still having hope, right? And still having like encouragement left and meaning, instead of just, going back to this like fun, regular sounding track. But besides that annoyance at the end, though, there weren't really that many things that were bad with it, right? I think I had like probably like 2 complaints overall. One of them was major, one of them was minor. Major one, right, like what I already said, I just said, that Illegal Activities was badly placed, and it kind of just ruins the flow of the album. And this may just be a critique of the genre, right? There were a few songs that just seemed too similar to others, not just with the beat, but also with the synths and the melodies that were used to create them. However, the whole album does feel really fun and replayable. I was listening to this multiple times, even outside of just after creating my initial review. And so overall, with like those 2 critiques, I'm gonna say that Digital Twin Blacksmith is a middle 8 out of 10. Now, I would say I'm going to review Blank next, but A Message from My Digital Twin does kind of seem like it is like just a sequel to Digital Twin, but not with the name, not only with just the name, but also the fact that it was released within the same year. So I'll probably review that one next, and then Blank. But what did you guys think about the review? What did you guys think about the album? Do I not know what I'm talking about? Did you like my opinion? Did you like the album? Why did you not like the album? Why did you like the album? But yeah, Lamel, you out.